And at the walkaway rallies I've been speaking at, I've oftentimes talked about how this election is not an election between, Democrats versus Republicans. It's not even really about Biden versus Trump. It's an election between, are you comfortable with an authoritarian government, or do you want to make decisions for yourself and about what you can read and think and ideas you consider and all that stuff. And that's how I've been framing it. But I think what you just said is so interesting in terms of they've tried to create this dichotomy between, like, if you're not pure, you're not worthy, pure by the standards that we define it as, you are not worthy to be in public office. And that just, to me, is absolutely crazy. And I don't think that average people feel that way, because everyone knows that we're every single one of us are imperfect. And if we have the expectation of politicians to be perfect, then we're just going to be constantly in a state of disappointment.
Yeah. Well, we've gotten ourselves into a frenzy about it, and we painted ourselves in a corner, because now that we're committed, what's a good way of putting this? I've said this to you before. There's no problem with anyone who has a gut feeling that they don't like Trump. I've never, ever tried to get people to either like him or dislike him. There's what's known in the media as a Q factor. They do tests on this kind of stuff. Do you like this person? Do you not like this person? And it's very complicated. But what I've tried to appeal to people is that when you're running public policy, it's not about whether you like the person. It's about whether the public policy suits the best interest for as many people as can be, benefited. Which is, it's hard to determine, and there's controversies about that kind of stuff. Yesterday or the other day, you broadcasted a very good presentation on all of the accomplishments or the things that Trump had done in his term in a very short time. Let me be critical. One of Trump's failings is he's done a really bad job at having the public know on an item by item basis the stuff that he's doing. Not only is he doing it, but he's doing it with one hand tied behind his back while he's fighting off the media and fighting off impeachment. Can you imagine accomplishing all that stuff? It's hard for me to think that when people say, well, Trump's doing nothing but watching TV and doing Twitter, well, then how did all that stuff get done? Even if he just assigned the right people to take care of whatever, it means that he knew enough how to juggle the balls to get this done, to get this done, and then get this done. Now, here's the other interesting thing about that. If Hillary Clinton had done that stuff, if Barack Obama had done that stuff, the media would be or heralding the wonderful accomplishments. Mm-hmm. But because Trump did them, that's the sin. Anything Trump does has to be called something bad, even when it's good. And I had a discussion with somebody about a week or so ago. It was after the United Arab Emirates and Israel came to some agreement. And I wasn't following that until I heard it. I got a little bit more details about it. And somebody said, well, what has Trump ever done? And I said, well, just the other day, there was this agreement. I mean, to the point where they have phone lines that they didn't have before between Israel and United. I mean, I didn't even know what that all meant. And without knowing more details, I just assumed, this is me, I just assumed that it was a good thing. I assumed that this kind of thing, without knowing all the details, was moving in the right direction. And Saudi Arabia is soon to follow, and the other, and there was an angle as to how it bypassed the Palestine, the PLO. So there are intrigues. I mean, it's probably very fascinating, but it seemed like it was going in the right direction. This is while Trump is fending off all of the criticisms, and he's a racist, and he's a homophobe, and he's, you know, all these things, and he's tweeting, and he's doing a major deal like this that hasn't been done for what, 50, 60 years? Yeah. It's crazy. So I was asked, so what has he ever done? And in a non-defensive way, I just said, well, I didn't know much about it, but it sounded, that deal he made sounds really good. Immediately they said that wasn't a good deal, you know, and Trump had nothing to do with it.
Okay. Yeah.
But that was the knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
Now here was my response, because I don't argue with people. What I do is I question so that they can help me understand better. That's an approach to avoid debates with people that are useless. Is I may not know everything. Maybe you can help me. So I said to them, I said, well, I didn't know that Trump had nothing to do with it. Was it good that Trump stood out of the way to let it happen? And it made them pause. And it created a bit of a crisis, because they could come close to saying, yeah, maybe if Trump had nothing to do with it, he was still smart enough to stand out of the way to let the forces work themselves out. Yeah, maybe that is a good skill. Oh, but I can't say that, because that would be saying something good about Trump, which gets to the bottom line. Trump does something, it's bad, end of subject. Trump will never do anything good.
You know, it's funny that you put it that way, because this is actually an argument I got into with a lot of people around the beginning of the year before the entire pandemic, especially when he did the State of the Union. And, you know, I had not fully kind of come out of the closet as I didn't support Trump at the time, but I kind of thought he was like not the worst guy in the world. And I hadn't fully come out of the closet at that point. And he did the State of the Union, and he was talking about how great the economy was and how great it was that the low unemployment rates for, you know, Black Americans, lowest unemployment rate for women, and all this stuff. And I tweeted out that I thought that low unemployment rates were a good thing. And I thought that one of the good things that Trump had done was the economy, that he, you know, had created a very robust economy, and that helped everyone. And instantly, what did I hear from a lot of people was, Carlin, that's Obama's economy. Don't you know that is Obama? And my response to them was, well, I mean, Trump's been in office for 3 years and he hasn't crashed the economy. So does he get some credit for not crashing the economy? And of course, no, the answer is no, because Trump never gets credit for anything. But it reminds me of like what you just explained with the peace deal.
It's really important. I've had that discussion too. And instead of arguing with people about whether it was Obama's economy, which basically I thought that wasn't true. But let's say I concede the point. Okay, you're making the point that it never would have happened without Trump, without Obama. I say, then good. Then Trump took what Obama started and continued it. In other words, the need to have to find Trump as the bad guy and anything he touches cannot be good is the whole point of it. And it could be seen that if, I mean, I imagine this, I imagine you imagine this, I imagine most all of your followers would imagine this, that if Obama had done any of the things that Trump did, even the wall part, even 300 miles of repairing the fence or whatever you want to call it, I believe that people, because Obama would have done it, they would have said that was a good thing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the moral of the story is, if Trump's involved with it, it's bad.
Right.